Learn how to grow your houseplants on moss poles with my top 10 tips. In this video, I'll share techniques for training climbing plants like Monstera and Pothos on moss poles, along with the mistakes I made so you can avoid them. Moss poles help support vining plants, encourage larger leaves, and promote strong root attachment. Sphagnum moss holds more moisture than coco coir, so I use sphagnum moss for my poles. Lighting, humidity, and watering play a huge role in healthy moss pole growth, as well as securing the plant correctly and maintaining proper moisture levels. Tip number 1, start as early as possible. The vines will be flexible and easier to work with, and the aerial roots can attach to the pole and get all the benefits early. Repot your new plant to a pot big enough to hold the pole, placed in the middle of the pot or on the side. Tip number 2, brown on brown. Look for the nodes. These are the little brown bumps on the stem. This is where roots will sprout from, and we want to make sure this side of the stem is touching the pole so that the roots can attach themselves. What happens if you have it facing the other way around? Not to worry too much, the vines still have that support, and I observed my Monstera doing an amazing thing, twisting its stem. So the roots will finally face the moss. This takes time though, so the plant is not getting the benefit of the pole until it has corrected itself. Tip number 3, tie the vines close to the pole. Gently guide the vines and tie them close to the pole so the roots can access the moss ASAP. Use garden clips or soft ties to prevent damage to the vines. Tie away from the nodes and leaves and tie them loose enough to allow growth. Tip number 4, keep the moss moist. The moss can hold moisture longer depending on how warm or humid your environment is. Keep it moist but let it dry at times to prevent growth of fungus and mold. When the moss is dry and crunchy, it becomes hydrophobic at first, meaning it repels water. It's like there's a coating to the moss and water just runs off. I made the mistake of pouring a lot of water on very dry moss and ended up with a puddle on the floor. Slowly wet the moss and it will start to look darker, which means it's rehydrated and will now hold on to water. I mist and also water from the top of the pole. Water will also reach the soil, so I adjust my watering schedule so I don't overwater. Tip number 5, fertilize. Mix liquid fertilizer to water moss pole. It's a great way to deliver nutrients to the plant via the aerial roots that attach to the pole. Tip number 6, keep the vines attached. Long vines grow outwards instead of upwards, so keep the vines attached to the pole so they get the most benefit from the moss pole, like moisture and nutrients. Tip number 7, bury the nodes. As the vines grow longer, you can wind them around the pole, and when it's long enough to reach the bottom of the pot, bury a couple of nodes and they will produce new roots along its length, resulting in a fuller, bushier plant with more vigorous growth, essentially turning bare stems into rooted, actively growing vines. Or you can prune and propagate as well. This will encourage bushier and healthier growth on the moss pole. Tip number 8, give your plant proper support. Be careful in moving the pole. Depending on the type of moss pole you have, you may need to support the pot to prevent it from toppling over and cause damage to the plant. I have mine inside a larger and heavier decorative pot because this happened to my Monstera. And this is permanent. We don't want that. Tip number 9, extend. Yes, we can extend the pole, add another length when the vines have grown longer. This is something I haven't done before, but I will have to with my Monstera, so the vine continues its vertical growth and grow larger and larger leaves. And finally, tip number 10, keep the light just right. Keep the plant in an area where it gets a lot of bright indirect light. Too little light can slow growth, while too much direct sunlight can burn the leaves. Remember, humidity and watering play a huge role in healthy moss pole growth, so remember to keep the humidity levels up and avoid overwatering. Be patient. Root attachment takes time, but with consistent care, your climbing houseplants will thrive on moss poles. That's it. Follow these moss pole plant care tips to keep your plants happy, healthy, and climbing beautifully.